Let's kick off the show on a Thursday with a big congratulations to another friend. This time it is Billy Long, former Missouri congressman and U.S. Senate candidate, who has been named the head of the IRS. The Billy Bus takes on a whole new meeting, and maybe it's back, John. Good morning.
Another Monday in the morning guest, huh?
I know. We keep getting our guests, well, they're getting themselves the jobs. It just so happens that friends of this show continue to land jobs in the Donald Trump administration.
What if we got enough momentum to get Clay Chastain a gig?
Don't push it, man.
We don't quite have that clout.
No, that's not happening. Yeah, but a guy can dream. All I know is now if we have a mistake on our taxes, at least the three of us, myself, John, and Mark, will be A-OK. I'll put in a call to Billy and say, Billy, I got a tax issue here. Help me out. What do I do? Take care of this for me, Billy. Come on now. Let's go. So Billy Long gets the IRS job, and I'm very happy for him. We've reached out to him late last night, have not heard back. I'm sure he's got hundreds of text messages from people around the country. But hopefully we'll get Billy Long on this show again very soon because he was a good friend of the show when he was in Congress, when he was running for U.S. Senate, and now his longtime loyalty, he coined the phrase Trump train. That was Billy Long back in 2015. He was one of the first members of Congress to support Donald Trump outwardly when he was a candidate. And now he has been rewarded as the head of the IRS. So congratulations, Billy Long. Meantime, yesterday was a doozy at the Supreme Court. I knew it was going to get a little crazy. I knew it was going to get a little hairy. But I'll tell you what, it was even more insane than I thought it was going to be. So at the Supreme Court yesterday, they heard the case regarding Tennessee law that prevents minors from using transitional drugs for their genders. Right? Whether it's chemical castration or testosterone for women, estrogen for men, whatever it might be. If you're not an adult, basically if you're a kid, Tennessee, like Missouri, but the case was around the state of Tennessee, does not allow you to take these kind of hormone treatments. So this case made it all the way up to the Supreme Court yesterday. The U.S. government argued against the state of Tennessee's law. And we're not going to have any decisions until sometime before July. So it's not like we're going to be talking about this probably beyond today, maybe tomorrow. The case was heard yesterday in front of the Supreme Court. But it is important to note how insane some of the arguments are. Remember, what this is about Tennessee being allowed to pass a law that prevents minors, kids, nothing to do with adults, from taking treatments that will impact their gender, that will change their testosterone, change their, estrogen levels. Forget just the mutilation part of it. Obviously, that's included here as well. But you had one Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was appointed by Joe Biden. And they really are two peas in a pod. Take a listen to Ketanji Brown Jackson yesterday, likening Tennessee's argument to prevent minors from getting self-castrated to that of Virginia in 1967, when the state of Virginia defended a ban on interracial marriage as constitutional because white and black individuals were equally prohibited from marrying spouses of the other race. She is claiming that this is the same thing. Yes, this law is the same thing. Just like when Virginia was defending its ban on interracial marriage in the late 1960s. I kid you not.
Being drawn by the statute. That was sort of like the starting point. The question was whether it was discriminatory because it applied to both races and it wasn't, necessarily invidious or whatever. But, as I read the statute here, the case here, The court starts off by saying that Virginia is now one of 16 states which prohibit and punish marriages on the basis of racial classifications. And when you look at the structure of that law, it looks in terms of, you can't do something that is inconsistent with your own characteristics. It's sort of the same thing. So it's interesting to me that we now have this different argument, and I wonder whether Virginia could have gotten away with what they did here by just making a classification argument the way that Tennessee is in this case.
Yes, I think that's exactly right, that there is absolutely a parallel between any law that says you can't act inconsistent with a protected characteristic.
You have got to be kidding me. You want to talk about a stretch? Man, that is a stretch right there, John Anthony.
Who did the quotes of 2024 we covered yesterday? Was that Merriam-Webster?
It was the AP wrote it. It was Yale who did it.
Sort of the same thing,
yeah,
she says.
Sort of the same thing.
That's got to be one of the quotes of the year.
Well, I'll just say this much. I never thought I was smart enough to be on the Supreme Court. I now think I have a chance. I now believe I may have a shot. Now, I'd have to take a law school class, which I'd never done and have no interest in. Mm-hmm. But, hey, man.
But you watch Law and Order on TV, so it's sort of the same thing.
Yeah. I'm a big SVU guy, I will add as well. Never been a CI guy, more of an SVU guy. But you're absolutely right. No lawyer with a functional brain would make this argument. And then there's Ketanji Brown Jackson from the top rope claiming that Tennessee, saying boys cannot take estrogen and girls cannot take testosterone, or God forbid. I mean, that's just base level stuff in this Tennessee transgender law for minors. But you want to take it to the next level, or God forbid beyond that when you talk about mastectomies and things of that nature. You have a Supreme Court justice comparing that ban to that of Virginia in the late 1960s, defending its ban on interracial marriage. Because what the state of Tennessee is saying here, they are saying that, well, boys and girls are being treated equally under our law. So there's nothing here that you can look at and say, well, this is like a 14th Amendment issue. The 14th Amendment, which granted citizenship to formerly enslaved people, stated that no state could deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process. So what the government is saying here in part is that basically this is unconstitutional because it violates the 14th Amendment. Because you are preventing somebody, you are depriving somebody of life, liberty, property without due process. You are denying equal protection. Tennessee is saying, no, boys can't do this and girls can't do this as minors. So nobody is being denied some kind of equal protection. It is across the board for males and females under the age of 18. And Ketanji Brown Jackson comes out and she says, well, this is like, Virginia, when they said, well, whites and blacks are being treated equally because they can't marry each other. No, chemically castrating 2-year-olds is not comparable to an attempt by Virginia 60 years ago now to ban interracial marriage. You've got to be kidding me. 913-408-7957. Jay and Lee Summit, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Yeah, it's not about sexual discrimination because it's for boys and girls. It's not about race because it's all races. There is one criteria, though, and that's age. But age is well enshrined in the Constitution because with the voting age, for example, as well as age consent laws, that's the only factor here. If they're adults, it's their choice. But this is prior to the age of consent for even sexual relations, and they're preempting that. And the people who are doing it are adults doing it to minors, which is for the same reason they don't want adults engaging in sexual congress, shall we say, with minors. For the same reason, this is even more intimate than that. And the kids, like, you've talked about dealing with 2-year-olds, 5-year-olds, you have kids yourself. They don't understand themselves, and they're extremely impressionable.
That's exactly right, Jay. Well said, my man. Nice job. Good way to kick it off. You're right. The age is the consistency, and there are plenty of things in this country we do or allow you not to do based on your age. You can't get a tattoo as a child. And now you have Supreme Court justices who are lobbying for children to be able to chemically castrate themselves or, God forbid, worse. And they're using this country's history of racial strife to do it. It is grotesque.
You can imagine a 15-year-old regretting that Bluey tattoo he got when he was 5.
Oh, gosh. Could you? I mean, my kids, they'd have Bluey tattoos. They'd have bingo.
Right.
They'd get mom and dad, too. They'd get, what else would they get? Moana tattoos. They'd be covered.
Claire's got a sleeve.
Oh, yeah. No, she looked like she's right out of the WWE.
Isley just turned 1. She got Daniel Tiger on the lower back.
Of course. Can't even get her into the ankle tattoo, right? She's got to go for the lower back, always. 913-408-7957 at 6:15 here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We're streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Coming up, I want to share with you a little rumor that is coming around on Mayor Lucas. We'll get to it next on KCMO. So there are some rumors out there regarding Mayor Quinton Lucas. And there's some things that might be popping on other media outlets in the days ahead. I don't know when exactly. I've just been hearing about this through different sources. And the one thing that continues to pop up, and I will ask Mayor Lucas about this in an hour and 10 minutes when he comes on the show, is the possibility that his PAC, and he has a PAC, a political action committee, that his PAC was behind a survey that was done last year that showed Clay County voters were dead set against a sales tax for the Royals. So I will ask him if that's true or not, because that is something I started hearing on pretty good authority over the last 24 hours or so. And you may recall it was late summer of 2023. If you're new to the show on 95.7 FM, or maybe you just found us on the podcast or on our stream, obviously the new ballpark for the Royals, wherever it might end up being, has been a big topic for 18 months now, give or take. And there was a really big push summer into the fall of 2023 to get the Royals up to Clay County. The commission was interested. You had the Economic Development Council that was interested. There was a location right there in North KC, the old bowling alley, that was perceived to be a great option for the Kansas City Royals. But obviously it would have taken a sales tax of some kind to get it done. And it was believed because of the population base in Clay County, which is about, 250,000 people, give or take. 259 is the numbers I'm looking at here. It would have required a sales tax of about a penny to get those two teams, or get that one team, the Royals, up north, based on what they felt they needed to build out the stadium and the adjacent complex for things like bars and restaurants and hotels and everything else, right? Well, this poll then drops in August of 2023. And the poll showed that 70% of Clay County residents were against a sales tax for the Kansas City Royals. And in a lot of people's minds, they figured, okay, well, I guess that's it. This group called Bold Decision is the one who surveyed Clay County voters. And they unsurprisingly, I'm reading this from KCTV5, displayed a greater interest in having the new ballpark in North KC than in the East Village. According to the study, 47% of Clay County voters favored having a new ballpark district in Clay County, while 20% favored the East Village location, which was just, right by City Hall, due east of Power and Light. They then write here, according to Bold Decisions data, 70% of Clay County voters said they would oppose a new sales tax for the purpose of funding a new stadium. Only 22% saying they would support it. 8% were undecided. Now, at the time, the group Bold Decision would not say who paid them for the survey. Now, they said it's about privacy. There was nothing illegal about that. There was nothing wrong about that. But it just so happened, according to the rumors that I'm hearing, that it was Mayor Lucas's PAC that funded that survey. And what have I told you for a long time? You can get a survey to spit out whatever you want. If you pay for a survey and you want the survey to tell you that the sky is orange, you can get that survey done. You can find a company that will find a survey, will find a group of people that will get you your desired outcome. So I don't know. I mean, if you're a Clay County resident, are you feeling hoodwinked by this? If you're the Kansas City Royals, do you take a second look at North Kansas City? And do you say to yourself, well, maybe we need to take a second look at Clay County? Maybe that poll was commissioned by Quentin Lucas's PAC in part to get that desired outcome to scare the Royals away from going to Clay County. That's entirely possible. Now, I will ask the mayor about this when he comes on the show in just over 1 hour from now and see how much truth there is to this rumor that I've been hearing. And I have it on pretty good authority, so I'm going to report it as more than just a rumor right now. But if you're a Clay County resident, do you say to yourself, gosh dang it, he's trying to hose us up here in the Northland, and he's just trying to keep the Royals down south the river. He's trying to scare them into coming up north. Or do you say, I actually agree with Quentin Lucas on this one. I'm glad he scared the Royals off from coming up here and trying to take more of our tax dollars. I don't want them up here anyway. There are two schools of thought on how this could play out. 913-408-7957. But just know this, I did reach out to the Royals this week as well. And I said, hey, now that you guys are doing this like FanDuel TV thing, and it's really just a reimagining Bally Sports. But since there's some changes in your television delivery and television product, could you come on the show and could we get, John Sherman, the owner, or Brooke Sherman, the COO, one of those guys, to hop on the show? And we'll talk mostly about the TV deal, but we'll touch on maybe some general stadium updates. And I was told there are no general stadium updates. So I said, all right, forget it. It's fine. There's literally nothing to talk about, is what I was told. And we're sitting here now turning the calendar to 2025. We are almost a full year removed from that vote going down in flames in Jackson County. The Royals are stuck in a stadium they claim has awful concrete cancer because they got a bad batch of concrete and is completely crumbling in front of our eyes. And watch out! Oh, there it goes! Big piece falling right on your head. And 9 months after the fact, 8-9 months after the fact, there's no update. I mean, I know they had a great season, and winning will solve a lot of things, but my goodness, what are they waiting on?
Several decision dates have come and gone.
Oh, that's right. A lot of those have come and gone. And now we sit here and we wait. And I do wonder if those of you up in the Northland are saying to yourself, you know what? Bring them up here. I might pay a little cheese, not a full penny, but I might pay a little something if they scale back their plans, if they drop the whole ballpark district, if it's just about a baseball stadium. You know what? Bring them up north. 913-408-7957. Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Streaming on the iHeart app. We also have the latest on the Pete Hegseth drama we'll get to this hour on KCMO. Well, the text line doesn't seem very fond of re-engaging the Royals back in the Northland. That's just my unscientific analysis of our text line at 913-408-7957. And the reason I'm bringing this back up is because it has not been reported anywhere yet in Kansas City, but I am hearing there are some reports that will be coming out highlighting Mayor Lucas's PAC's involvement, that's his Political Action Committee's involvement, in that survey that was done in Clay County last year, 2023, that said 70% of Clay County voters don't want to go up north, don't want the Royals to come up north if it includes a sales tax. And that basically put the kibosh on the whole thing. And the insinuation would be that Mayor Lucas and his PAC made sure that the outcome of that survey was as such to scare the Royals from going up north, to keep them in Jackson County. And as a result, they stayed in Jackson County. Well, they tried to. And then that vote went down in flames as well in April of this year. 913-408-7957. Jeff in Kansas City, you're on KCMO. What's up, Jeff? Go ahead.
Good morning. Your analysis is perfect. You can drive a pole to whichever direction you want. The sun is purple, the sun is green, whatever. But being somebody that's lived in Clay County almost my entire life, almost over 60 years, I'll tell you, Clay Countyans may or may not vote for it. It just depends. Quentin Lucas has painted us as bad people because, they're, they're the haters, they're that, whatever. He's filling the Northland, good development ground up here, full of apartments because they've got some sort of energy requirements on single family dwellings in Kansas City to the point they're driving single family dwellings out of Kansas City in the Northland. Whole different conversation. But as far as the Royals are concerned, this is a mess. The way that the Shermans packaged this, I don't think they planned it very well. Mm-hmm. And they thought they were going to have development property out of it and that they were going to make money off of it and then be able to flip their development property with the stadium, around the stadium and the team and sell it for profit later, I think. But here's the bigger issue. Salt Lake and Nashville are they're waiting for a major league team. And I mean, Nashville is chomping at the bit.
Yes, they are. They are. Thank you, Jeff. There's no doubt that those cities are interested in trying to get Major League Baseball. But it sounds like they're more interested in getting Major League Baseball by way of expansion than by relocation. Because if relocation was an option for them, first off, there would be something about the Royals out there. There would be. And there would be something about like the Tampa Bay Rays out there as well. Neither of those things have come to fruition. The Royals are looking for leverage wherever they can get it. And the fact that they haven't gone down the road of, Nashville's looking pretty good is telling to me. It's telling because it tells me it's so unrealistic that they can't even use it for leverage. And also, let's be honest, I give John Sherman some credit. If he wanted to, he could probably just throw it out there. You know what? I'm going to sell the team to some big investors in Nashville. I just can't win here, and I can't get the job done here, and I can't make money here, so I'm out. To his credit, he hasn't done that. But also, most of the investors around John Sherman are Kansas City people. It's a Kansas City group. John Sherman's a Kansas City guy. I know that was important. When they were selling the team, they found a guy who has that kind of a pedigree, who has that kind of connection to the town. And John Sherman does not want to lose this team. I don't believe that John Sherman has any nefarious plans. This is not, go back if you're a sports fan, is it almost 20 years ago now? To when the Seattle Supersonics left for Oklahoma City. And everybody knew when the Seattle Supersonics were bought by a group of oil guys from Oklahoma, that was the end of them. That eventually they were going to get them out there. And what ended up happening? Well, they ended up, Katrina, when Hurricane Katrina happened, the New Orleans Pelicans played some games in Oklahoma City. And shortly after is when the Seattle Supersonics, owned by these Oklahoma oil guys, ended up moving the team to Oklahoma City about 15, 20 years ago now. I guess that would have been 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. But that's not the case with this ownership group in Kansas City. That's not. What you have going on here is a group of Kansas City guys who want to keep the team here, who I genuinely believe want to do it the right way. But they missed the boat on the whole downtown thing. That was a renaissance that happened post-2008 recession up until pre-COVID. There was a 10-year window to get a team downtown. After the 2008 recession, there was a big movement to build up downtowns around the country. Young people, millennials coming out of college, looking to live in a downtown environment. Woo-woo, go out, party, the whole thing. Millennials are getting old, all right? Trust me, I felt it when I woke up today. We're starting to get old, us millennials. I know some of you are like, shut up, you're young. John's yelling at me. I can see him on the other side of the glass. But millennials are now at the point in their lives where they're having kids. They want single-family homes. They want a little property. They don't want to be in a shoebox in a downtown environment. That ship has sailed. COVID changing the way that we work, office space. We've got millions of square feet of free office space not free, but of office space available in downtown Kansas City. Nobody wants it. So that blueprint that John Sherman had when he bought the team was in a pre-COVID world. That ship has sailed. So we might as well look at something different. 913-408-7957. John's in Independence. What's up, John? Go ahead.
This whole thing went off the rails when they started going on about concrete cancer. They lost me then.
Yeah. Now, were you a Jackson County voter?
Yes.
Okay, so...
And I voted against it back in April.
You did? All right.
Yes.
Is there anything that they could bring to you that you would vote yes on?
Well, they don't necessarily for us to vote yes. What they need to do is to dig into their deep pockets and pay for it on their own.
So you wouldn't vote for any kind of a sales tax?
I would, but it's like the old adage: you got a bunch of rich kids wanting the poor kids to pay for their toys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, if these billionaire owners, it's like they want taxpayers to pay for their good times, and especially now we're in a time where people are struggling to make their food bill come through, or pay their mortgage. So I don't think, there's a lot of people who can go out and have a great time, but on the other hand, you've got these billionaires asking for people to pay for this stuff, and they can barely pay for their own right now.
Yeah. Listen, and you're right. The inflationary times that we've lived through under Joe Biden, thank you very much there, my man, combined with the property tax fiasco in Jackson County, just helps sink this thing for the Royals. Totally sunk it. And that didn't help one bit either. You're right. And listen, going to these games is not cheap anymore. It's just, it's not. Whether it's the Chiefs or the Royals. I mean, yes, you can get Wednesday afternoon tickets to see the Royals and the, Twins for a pretty good price. But if you want to, go to a real game Saturday against the Yankees, a playoff game, forget it. Most people are going to be priced out anyway. So they're like, why am I funding this?
I'm with John. It's like he'd like to see the owner say how much they're putting up. You go to lunch with the guy, you split the bill. It's like, dude, I had a double cheeseburger. You had the T-bone. Right? I'm not, no 50-50.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, you were drinking. I had a water with a burger.
Yeah.
Come on, my man.
You're the one with the $3.50 Diet Coke.
Yeah. I was thinking more like a $12 glass of Merlot or something. But either way, your example works.
You see what world I dabble.
Oh, man. Coming up, we'll get you the latest on the Pete Hegseth drama, defense secretary, appointment by Donald Trump. Is it going to go down in flames, or is he going to hang on? I'm leaning towards the latter, and I'll explain why next on KCMO Talk Radio. Well, I'm starting to think that Pete Hegseth is going to make it, and he's going to get through as defense secretary, despite the rumors that started 2 nights ago that Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, was potentially going to be in a position to replace Pete Hegseth if he had to drop out. This is not Matt Gaetz. Let's be very clear. What Pete Hegseth, the Fox News weekend host of Fox and Friends, is dealing with is character assassination. And while I'm not sitting here defending anything that is alleged to have happened in Pete Hegseth's life as someone who's been married 3 times, not me, him, sorry, that came out wrong. Someone who's been married 3 times, and all these allegations about, maybe partying too much while on the job at Fox, all these anonymous sources. It's interesting that the only people who have gone on the record about Pete Hegseth and his time at Fox are those who are saying all this stuff is BS, and he's a decent guy. Now, I can't speak to him. He's been a guest on this show before, and I did work at Fox for a period of time, but it was on the radio side. And the radio side and the TV side are very segregated, as they are in most places like that, as someone who's been around some of those newsrooms. I don't know Pete. I have not dealt with him before. All I will say is that the people who are on the record, willing to go on the record, are defending him, are saying all this stuff is nonsense. All the people who are trashing him, amazingly, are anonymous. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I know some of you might say, I don't like Pete. He shouldn't be the defense secretary. I don't know if he's going to do a good job or not. I don't. I mean, I think there's people who might do a slightly better job, but Donald Trump appointed him. He has earned the right to get a confirmation hearing, and it's not like he doesn't have any experience in this stuff. And what's just as important when you're running the Pentagon is not only what do you know, but do you hire the people who know what to do below you? Right? You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar operation. It's not like you're going to micromanage the place. Who do you put around you? Who do you put underneath you? That also matters as well. It might matter more than just what you know. So yesterday, Trump came out apparently and told Pete Hegseth to keep fighting. He was on Capitol Hill. He was talking with U.S. senators because what he has to have happen here is he has to get 51 U.S. senators to confirm him as the next defense secretary. So he's basically making his pitch behind closed doors. And he's saying, listen, guys, all these things, these character assassination deals that are coming out are unfair. They're not about the job I'm going to do. And listen, there have been things in my past that I'm not proud of, but it would not impact my ability to do this job. That is very different from what Matt Gaetz was dealing with. Matt Gaetz was dealing with allegations of things that would have been illegal, right? When you talk about minors, potentially drug involvement, Pete Hegseth, what these allegations are just character assassination. It's very different. And Matt Gaetz didn't come close to fighting nearly as much as Pete Hegseth has fought. Matt Gaetz, took a little stroll around Capitol Hill, met with a couple of people, and was like, I'm out. And Trump's like, all right, thanks. All right, Pam Bondi, you're next up. There was none of this Pete Hegseth talking to the media, being on Capitol Hill for days on end, Donald Trump publicly saying, hey, Pete, keep fighting. None of that happened with Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz showed up, had a couple of meetings, quickly dropped out, said, thanks so much. I'm going to stay in the fight in some other capacity. Trump said, no problem. We'll see you later. And then he moved on to Pam Bondi very quickly. Very different situation from what's going on right now at Pete Hegseth. John Thune, who is going to be the Senate Majority Leader out of South Dakota, he's obviously going to play a big role in this. He was on Fox yesterday and said this about the Pete Hegseth potential confirmation.
Bear and Bill Malugin, our reporter, said that Mar-a-Lago, President-elect Trump is considering the possibility of Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, to be the Secretary of Defense nominee. That would mean that Pete Hegseth would no longer be. Have you heard from any senators about that possible switch?
Well, I think, Dana, the important thing is the president is still committed to the nominees that he's put forward. There's a lot, as you know, swirl around this process. There always is side conversations that go on. But, at the end of the day, these nominees need to have the opportunity to make their case. I'm meeting later today, I think it's been reported, with Pete Hegseth, as are many of my colleagues. And I think the readouts from these meetings are he's very smart, and he's got, great experience, obviously, as a combat veteran. So we're going to give him the chance to make his argument, make his case. And clearly, he's going to have to answer some hard questions, which he is, based on the reports I'm getting from the meetings he's attended so far. But that is part of our process. And under advice and consent in the Constitution, our responsibility as the Senate is to give him that process and to determine, based upon confirmation hearing and background search and things like that, their qualifications for the office.
All right, that is John Thune yesterday on Fox News talking about Pete Hegseth. Matt Gaetz did not get anywhere close to that kind of confidence from anybody in a notable level of power, never mind John Thune, who is the incoming Senate Majority Leader. When I hear that from John Thune, I hear a guy who is more than willing to vote for Pete Hegseth and confirm Pete Hegseth. And Trump throwing his support behind Pete Hegseth yesterday, saying keep fighting, tells me that if Trump's going to stand by Pete, then Pete's going to get through. And it might be a little ugly, but all in all, it feels very Brett Kavanaugh-ish to me in the way this is going down. Anonymous everything, pure character assassination, nothing technically you'd look at and say, it was illegal. Now, it might be immoral, but that's a totally different conversation. And then in the end, there's a new poll out that's been done by Morning Consult. It dropped yesterday, 2,000 registered voters. And it showed that all of Donald Trump's nominations thus far have a higher approval rate than they do a disapproval rate among the American people. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, has the highest approval rate at 45%, 34% disapprove. RFK Jr., that crazy guy, RFK Jr., that the media keeps telling us about. His approval number is at 44%, disapprove at 39%. He's got one of the higher disapproval ratings, but he's still above water. Dr. Oz, 41-38. Tulsi Gabbard, 39-33. And Pete Hegseth, 36% approve, 32% disapprove, 32% don't have an opinion or don't know. So the media continues to miss the boat on where the American people are at. And that is absolutely nothing new.
Talk about a bombshell.
Coming up, this story where the CEO of the largest private insurer in the country getting gunned down yesterday morning walking out of his hotel continues to get more bizarre. I know we have people in this audience who have worked in law enforcement or currently work in law enforcement, and there's a lot of speculation on what exactly has gone on here and how this all played out. I want to share with you the latest, what we know, and why this story keeps getting crazier. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM and streaming on your Google Home or Alexa device. Why are you rolling with this? I didn't say I was talking about Hunter Biden here. Good morning, 7:05. It is great to have you on board on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM as we start hour 2 of the show. So this story that broke yesterday while we were on the air continues to get more bizarre. It's like something out of a movie or a TV series. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is walking out of his hotel at about 6:30, 6:45 in the morning yesterday in New York City, right on 6th Avenue and 56th Street, and he gets gunned down in broad daylight by a guy who was in a mask, hooded. Now, his eyes, you can see his eyes, you can see his nose, you can see basically right above the eyebrows down to his nose. In images that have been captured from a nearby Starbucks that he appeared to be in right before he gunned down the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, who was on his way to a shareholders meeting. And when I heard the story yesterday, the first thing I said on the air was, this is obviously a targeted hit. This is not a random act of violence. And I will say the police confirmed this pretty early yesterday. But now the question has been, was this a professional hit? And while there's many of our listeners who work in law enforcement, who have worked in law enforcement, who have done this kind of investigative work that I would be happy to hear from on the text line 913-408-7957 or on the phones, I'm starting to think it's not. It's still targeted, but this is not some kind of professional. Because if you are a professional in that situation, and if you've seen the video, what the shooter does is he walks right up behind Brian Thompson as he's coming out of the hotel, and he shoots him from what appears to be 10 feet away, but he takes another shot or two. Professionals are not taking 3 shots in that situation because they got to get out of there as quickly as they can. Also, are they allowing their eyes to be exposed in a Starbucks where you know there are cameras all over the place right before you're about to commit this crime? That seemed like a major mistake to me. There's no way a pro is like, you know what, I need a cup of Joe before I go do this, and let me make sure the cameras don't catch me.
And jumping on an electric bike that can be tracked.
Well, yes, that as well. This does not feel like a professional. Now, definitely targeted, but not a professional. And then last night, I saw this clip on Fox News from John Walsh. Remember him, America's Most Wanted? Watching and seeing John Walsh reminds me of my childhood in the 90s. Watching like a Dallas Cowboys afternoon game and don't miss America's Most Wanted right after The Simpsons. Or maybe it was the other way around. I don't know. But it was always on Fox, watching NFL Sundays in the 90s. And there would be John Walsh teasing America's Most Wanted. Yeah, we got to find this guy, this SOB. We're going to get him. John wasn't looking too hot last night, but he is 78 years old, so God bless him. But he's on Fox last night, and he gave his insight as to why he believes this was not a professional job.
I never came across a really good pro, because if they're really good, you don't know they're a pro. This guy made a lot of mistakes. I made some notes here for myself. He was wearing sunglasses. A real pro wouldn't have had, he wasn't wearing sunglasses. A real pro would have been wearing sunglasses so that they couldn't get him with facial recognition. He had a half-ass gun. He probably learned how to build it on YouTube or something like that. I think he was smart. I think I heard you say earlier today you thought someone may have paid him. But I think about the stock deal, and I think the trouble that the company got into, you never know when people are hurt. And this company hurt a lot of doctors, couldn't get their money. There are a lot of patients that had to wait a long, long time to get their bills paid. So it may be somebody out of control whose grandmother died because they couldn't get the right doctor, they couldn't get the right help. But the guy, I don't think he's a pro. Yeah, I know you do, but...
No, I don't know any more than anybody on the street knows, but you know more than most people, and you're probably right. The more that I think about it, I think you're onto something with the motive.
That is John Walsh last night with Jesse Waters on his show on Fox News, explaining why he does not believe this guy is a pro. And right away, when you just look at the video, clearly it's about revenge because, as you noted on the text line, many of you noted on the text line, he wrote on the bullets. There's no way a professional is doing that. You could get some kind of handwriting recognition. There appears to be, as you just heard at the top of the hour from Fox News, they may have some kind of a DNA on this individual from the Starbucks. Once again, that is not something a professional hitman is doing. Although as the story unfolded yesterday, it felt like real life Yellowstone or something to me as I'm watching this story unfold. If you've been watching the new Yellowstone, there's all this talk about a hitman and everything else getting Kevin Costner's character. And I'm like, my gosh, it's like real life. But what we also know now is that the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, was facing a Department of Justice probe for insider trading when he was killed. He was one of several senior executives at the company under investigation by the DOJ when he was gunned down outside of this hotel yesterday. So here's the story. Thompson exercised stock options and sold shares worth $15 million on February 16th, less than 2 weeks before news of the federal antitrust probe went public. The stock price dropped sharply after the revelation that the DOJ was investigating whether the company had made acquisitions that consolidated its market position in violation of antitrust laws. Thompson's stock options reportedly had several years until expiration, and the sale of the shares was his first since assuming the helm of the parent company in 2021. So between Thompson, along with the United Health Group chairman, Stephen Helmsley, Chief People Officer Aaron McSweeney, and Chief Account Officer Tom Roos, they sold a combined $101 million in shares, with Helmsley personally netting just shy of $85 million. So is this hit tied to that? The DOJ investigation? Is it tied to just somebody whose family members have been hosed by United Healthcare not covering some kind of medical situation? I don't know. Obviously, we don't even know who this person is right now. They're still at large. But this is sad to say, obviously, a fascinating story. And 913-408-7957. On the text line, Pete, targeted yes, professional no. Here's why. The first shot was low left. You can tell when the CEO reaches for it. Second, and I thought that too. I'm like, wait, this guy's 10 feet away. He's been prepping for this, and he appears to shoot him in the leg on a first shot. This is not like Joe Biden saying, shoot him in the ankle. Like, this guy is there for a reason. He's 10 feet away. He's got his moment, and he hits the guy in the leg. Like, there's no way that a professional is screwing up like that. So very good point on the text line. The texter has, second, the guy racks the gun after the first shot because he's using a suppressor and the wrong ammo. I had seen some stories about that as well yesterday. you need the correct ammo to cycle the gun with a suppressor, plus everything you have already said. Did you hear Jeff Bezos? Holy smokes, what happened to Jeff Bezos? First off, he owns the Washington Post. He prevents them from endorsing Kamala Harris because he knew it would have been a failure of an endorsement. He's not a dumb man. I mean, the guy founded Amazon. I don't care what his politics are. He's not stupid, okay? And now he's out there and talking about all the good things he thinks that Donald Trump is going to be able to do. Yeah, he says he's optimistic. Jeff Bezos, Amazon founder, says he's optimistic about President-elect Donald Trump. He said this yesterday at the New York Times' Deal Book Summit, saying he expects a more friendly regulatory environment in the upcoming administration. Think about where we were 4 years ago at this time when it came to the most powerful tech people in the world. You had Mark Zuckerberg, who had dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into basically getting Joe Biden elected, right, with the Zucker bucks. And nobody else would say anything positive about Donald Trump as a person or a candidate. Now, we know about the Elon Musk relationship. He spent a lot of money in a PAC to help Donald Trump get elected. You know, you have Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, who put the kibosh on any kind of endorsement from their editorial board. We knew which way that would have gone anyway. And now Bezos is out there bragging about how he thinks Donald Trump is going to do pretty good things. Take a listen.
You know, if we're talking about Trump, I think it's very interesting. I'm actually very optimistic this time around that we're going to see. I'm very hopeful about this. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him. Because we do have too much regulation in this country. This country is so set up to grow. By the way, all of our problems, all of our economic problems, like if you look at the deficit and, I mean, you know, the debt, the national debt and how gigantic it is as a portion of GDP, these are real problems and they're real long-term problems. And the way you get out of them is by outgrowing them. You're going to solve the problem of the national debt by making it a smaller percentage of GDP, not by shrinking the national debt, but by growing the GDP. You have to grow the denominator. And that means you have to grow GDP at, 3, 4, 5% a year and, let the national debt grow slower than that. If you can do that, this is a very manageable problem. So we need a growth orientation in this country.
Man, Jeff Bezos, he gets this girlfriend, Lauren Sanchez. He starts taking testosterone, getting jacked, and now he sounds like a real man. That's right, Jeff. It's amazing. If you do the before, look at Jeff Bezos 20 years ago compared to today. The guy looks 10 times as good today as he did 20 years ago. It's amazing what it'll do. It's amazing what billions of dollars in net worth can do for you. But he's also earned it. I mean, the guy's like, he could beat him former self up 10 times over pretty easily. It's amazing. And he's like pushing 60 years old. It's pretty damn good. It's pretty impressive. But, he gets on that tee and suddenly, look at the guy. I don't know if he's going to our friends over at Heartland Men's Health or what's going on there, but he looks great. He sounds great. Now he's making a whole lot of sense, too. He understands. This is basic economics. Deregulate. Let the free market grow. Get GDP up to 3, 4, 5%. Stop with the heavy hand from government. Regulations, whatever they might be tied to, green energy, whatever, the pet projects are of the government. Stop growing the government. Start growing the private sector. These things are tried and tested and work. And Jeff Bezos is now out here saying as much. You've heard nice things, obviously, from Elon Musk. I mean, these are people who are the most successful entrepreneurs in American history. They're the Rockefellers of our time, or whichever family and name you want to use. And I'm not saying we need to worship the ground that they walk on, but I'm willing to say, they're worth listening to. They're incredibly successful business people for a reason. They know what they're doing with some of this stuff. And when Bezos is out there saying, hey, we got a problem with too much regulation in this country and it's hamstringing private enterprise, why would you not listen to that? Unless you believe that the government knows better and bureaucrats and politicians who, for the most part, couldn't run a lemonade stand. I mean, I trust my two daughters who ran a lemonade stand back in the, I guess that was late summer. They put one up. They did a great job. They did a bang-up job. I'd take them over Joe Biden running a lemonade stand.
Come on, man.
So with that being said, why would you not listen to people like Bezos on how to grow an economy over people like Joe Biden who have never had a real job in their lives, or Kamala Harris? That's not political. That's just stepping back and using an ounce of common sense. And I'm not just glad that Bezos feels this way. I'm glad that he is willing to say it out loud instead of being shamed or scared into keeping his mouth shut. We need more of that. That's what we need.